Hello everyone, welcome back to Case Studies with the BizDoc. This week it's Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of you have been asking, when on earth are you going to wear the same shirt? Well, I think this is now the second time I've worn the Team Lotus shirt. I love Lotus, historical team and everything. These are all about teamwork, and we're going to talk about the team is the consumer this week, and the consumer having a voice in reviews puts all consumers on the same team so that we are smart about how we spend our money. And what no team is good without a pit crew. You love Mario and Paul. Hey. Thank you very much. There we go. So after a quick pit stop, let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes. That's the topic this week. What I want to look into is there's a lot of press going on right now about Rotten Tomatoes, how the movie industry is a little upset about it. I want to take you on a fast history of Rotten Tomatoes and show you that an organization that got started in a dorm room because the founder wanted to aggregate Jackie Chan video reviews so you could sort out the good Jackie Chan videos from the ones that weren't so good. And the movies that he was all in, everybody loved them, but some of them were like steaming turds, and of them were really fun. But the way Kung Fu movies went, they were like out every week. So this guy in his dorm room, 1998, wants to get all these reviews together so you could tell one for another. He did it on a part-time basis until he gets a couple more of his friends that went to Berkeley, Cal Berkeley, which is up near San Francisco. For those of you watching around the world, it's a very famous university, simply known as Cal. And he gets now 3 friends together, and in 2000, it's go time. So they go off and running, and they're very successful. They're aggregating reviews, and suddenly people like you and me, before we spent $5, $6 back in 2000, that was the average price, to go to a movie, you're checking out Rotten Tomatoes. What does everybody else think about it? Because reviews were coming up everywhere. Amazon was still kind of young, and there was reviews on books. So a book that you didn't know anything about, but it's on a bestseller list, now you could see stars and reviews. And so reviews were becoming a staple of the internet economy as the consumer comes together to rate things and make decisions on what we buy. That attracted the attention of a gaming network, IGN. And those of you that played video games, remember IGN on one side and then GameSpot on the other side? You would go to determine, which of the video games were good and which one was going to work on your gaming platform that you're going to enjoy, and look at the ratings and what the critics said. Well, IGN was like, hey, we got reviews of games. Why not also own Rotten Tomatoes? So it gets bought. At this point, it's still really independent. Then something happened. A year later, it gets bought by Fox. 20th Century Fox is part of Fox. Now, the division that bought it was FIM, Fox Interactive Media, which is like all these internet and interactive sites that were related to Fox. And then one of the other things that Fox bought was MySpace. And Fox paid $580 million in 2005 for MySpace at the same time. They went on a shopping spree. But $580 million for MySpace? Damn! That's a lot of money that went spinning down the toilet. Speaking of turds, if Fox owns Rotten Tomatoes, how do we depend on Rotten Tomatoes if it's a Fox movie? Is there going to be an invisible hand inside the server adjusting the review? That was a valid concern, but by and large, most of us, me, you, I think others, probably still trusted Rotten Tomatoes. Then they were bought by a company called Flixster about 5 years later. So there's been this long chain. I'm going to show you what happens at the end of the chain, which is really interesting. Then 1 year later, Warner buys it. Well, that's Warner Brothers now. Comments come back up. Now, wait a minute. When they and Flixster were together, at this time, 2010, that was like 30 million monthly uniques. And I'm pretty sure that's a number, and you can go look it up and test me. So now you go to Warner Brothers. Warner owns it. Well, that goes about 5 years, and then Flixster, which is inside Warner, because Warner bought Flixster and Flixster's still operating, Flixster gets bought by Fandango. So Fandango owns Flixster, who owns Rotten Tomatoes. 70% of it is owned by Comcast, 30% here. So there's still 2 movie theaters in there. So if there's still, movie studios, movie theaters where we go to watch. So now you have ownership among 2 studios. So what is all this angst in the marketplace of how Rotten Tomatoes is bad? It's actually good. Anything that democratizes the ability of a consumer to make a review is a good thing. Would you go and get a plumber without looking at Angie's List? My wife wouldn't. You probably wouldn't. Would you go to a restaurant you hadn't heard of without looking at Yelp or OpenTable? It's common. It's what we do. We even make decisions about which Lyft or Uber driver we get because we look at it and say, how do you get a 3.9 as an Uber driver? Don't you get counseled? Cancel. Get the next driver. Reviews are everywhere, and it's how we make decisions about spending our money and use the internet as a democratized tool to allow us to do it. But nonetheless, today you've got these conversations going on. You know, all of this scuttle. For instance, Armand White. He's with the New York Film Critics Circle, and he said that the internet merely is taking revenge on individual expression. Wait a minute. Taking revenge on individual expression? Oh, what you meant to say was, thanks to the internet, you can't push a steaming turd on an unsuspecting movie-going public. That's what you meant to say. And then you have big producers like Brett Radner, who said that Rotten Tomatoes is the worst thing that we have in today's movie culture. Now, Brett explained that when you reduce all the critics' words to a simple score, that's not the full story and there needs to be more to it. And maybe there's some truth to that, but you know what? People like us, we go to a movie and what does it cost now? You go to like Studio Movie Grill, that's like, you know, $40 for two people to go to the movie, and then maybe you have a babysitter. You know, you look at that and say, before I spend that kind of coin on a movie, because it's the entire movie night with the movie as the centerpiece, I want to know the review. I want to know what's good or not. Or do I just wait for it to come on Amazon Prime, and watch the HDX version for $10 and own it? So if my kids love Little Mermaid or any video like that, or Secretariat, things they really like, I can own it forever for $10 after the fact. So I think there's an important lesson here, and the first is, you know, aggregation of information to build reviews is a fantastic thing. And whether you're doing that on a website or you're contributing to a website, you're contributing to a dialogue that helps people, consumers, make better decisions. And I think all of this is a good thing. And I think this is a controversy which is a result of disruption that favors you and me. Anything you do in a company you try to build, if you're disrupting the status quo and there's a lot of noise in the system, if you know that you're not doing something inflammatory or wrong-headed or slanderous, then you've probably struck the right vein, because what's happening is the incumbents are starting to scream, and you've built something to help people make better decisions. And I think that's one of the wonderful benefits of the internet. And if the movie industry was so worried about this, why do they keep trading it like a monopoly piece for more money, make more money on it, trade it to here, it goes to Flickster, ends up at Fandango? Why not hang on to it and control it and bring the reviews together in a different way? Right now, you've got things like The Mummy, got 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, destroyed its opening box office. Baywatch, the remake of Baywatch, destroyed its opening weekends, like a 19% or something Rotten Tomatoes. I've got an idea. Why don't you build a great product and score great reviews? In the movie industry, you're making a bet. And as long as you guys in the movie industry want to sit there where you make a bet, where you pay The Rock $20 million, you pay a producer $6 million, and you make the movie, and you got all that money over here, and you're sitting there, you've made a bet. Well, guess what? That's the industry you've chosen to live in, and the internet is the wonderful democratized environment that we've chosen to live in, so we can make decisions on the products we want to see and when we want to see them, and if we want to spend the money on them, such as your movie. That's this week's case study on Rotten Tomatoes. I hope you give it a fresh rating, and boom. Thank you for watching Valuetainment. Please subscribe. We're on a mission to get to 1 million subscribers thanks to you. Until next time, I'm Tom Ellsworth, and I hope I've left you better than I found you.